Hello anime fans, this is Trixie the Golden Witch, and this video is brought to you by my backers on Backed by Substack and Patreon, who got this video a whole week ago. I can't thank them enough. Anyways, here's the video. A lot of anime that I really love is not really recommendable to anyone except for people who are gonna take one look at it and immediately decide that they need it in their life. I've done a lot of recommending anime over the years, and even though I think anime is mostly pretty niche in general, there's always been a couple of hundred shows that I could reasonably say things about like, hey, if you like romantic comedies, odds are decently high you're gonna enjoy His and Her Circumstances. Or, hey, if you love action, you pretty much can't go wrong with Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. And then there's another couple of handfuls of shows that I'm like, I gave this a 9 out of 10, and I can't recommend it to any particular group of people. Here are those shows. iCity. This movie is the definition of raw, unhinged, aesthetic ideation. Koichi Mashimo is one of the most insane directors in the business, and particularly at the end of the 80s, he had a couple of opportunities to make the most visually all-out animated sci-fi films of the era. There's the more renowned Dirty Pair movie, and the less renowned by anyone other than myself, iCity. I think I like iCity more because Dirty Pair, while unbelievably beautiful, is more like the highest aesthetic realization of the popular visual tropes of sci-fi anime of the era, and especially the long-running Source TV series, Dirty Pair. But iCity, while just as quintessentially 80s, is also utterly bonkers in such a variety of ways that it's hard to even really pin down to one genre. I mean, this was Vaporwave before Vaporwave. It already feels like it's looking back on the 80s from 40 years in the future. It's a bunch of kooky madness with some incredible insert music, courtesy of Evangelion and Shin Gojira composer Sagi Soshiro. I can't recommend watching this unless you already started downloading it based on the visuals alone, because the story is nonsense and it's incredibly violent and difficult, but you know, some of you will love this shit. Now, I'm pretty desensitized to satanic imagery and sexual violence thanks to the internet, and so copious demon rape scenes like in Urotsuki Doji weren't as off-putting or even as tantalizing as I guess they probably would be to some other audiences. But all of that to me is secondary to just how stunningly awesome the film looks, in a way that's not unlike the film Cool World in its presentation of hell frothing over and conquering reality, but it pushes things way further into the darkness representationally. I mean, look, I get it. You probably don't really want to think about how it would look for demons to ravage and destroy the earth, but I'm telling you, it looks fucking awesome. I have no idea what the plot of this movie was. I just looked at it, alright? In a similar vein, Kakugo no Susume, or Apocalypse Zero, is deeply unpleasant in concept and presentation, and very politically suspect. But I think it's also incredibly interesting, and I made a whole video about how I think it's the most underrated anime ever made, which 250,000 people watched, and its score on my anime list has not improved whatsoever. So, I guess people didn't agree with me. If you think maybe there's something wrong with me that I even like these shows, consider these Shintaro Kago shorts. I also made a video recommending all of this guy's work before, and after reading Super Dimensional Love Gun, which is an amazing manga, and having many of its panels just live in my head rent-free ever since, I feel I must emphatically double down on my endorsement. Plus, Josie from Fish Tank thinks that this stuff is cool, and she's cool, so that's like a double down endorsement. Cat Soup is kind of in the same vein as those Shintaro Kago shorts, but I think its extra cool presentation and surrealism has elevated it a little bit to more like acclaim than some of the other weird shit I'm talking about here. Cutesy animal gore is maybe a little more digestible than human gore to some, although your mileage may vary, and the violence isn't the only thing off-kilter and mesmerizing about this OVA either. I saw this thing advertised so much in the early 2000s that I'm sure a lot more people have seen it than who like remember any of it, but this is the definition of a cult film in anime. Well, unless you really want to talk about the actual definition of a cult film, which is Midori, a deeply grueling experience through some of the most aesthetically beautiful artwork ever handled by entirely just one goddamn dude. This troubling, disturbing, short 45-minute or so film was only ever shown at private screenings where they had like a whole carnival aesthetic, and you were basically going into this old carny thing where they had performers and stuff and all this stuff surrounding the movie, you know, to kind of create the atmosphere that would make this make more sense, where if you just watch this like apropos of nothing, throw this on as like a thing to watch, it's a nightmare. It's fucking disgusting, vomit-inducing thing. It's also easily findable on YouTube. So if you really want to ruin an acid trip for some new friends you just made, put this movie on. I might have done that one Halloween. I'm also thinking back, Ninja Resurrection. That's a film that when I saw it as a kid, I hated so much and found so disturbing. I gave it a -2 out of 10. For a long time, I literally considered this like the bottom. This is the worst anime could be, because it's just ruthlessly dark and disturbing. And it only had 2 of its 6 episodes made, so whatever comeuppance the villains might have had never happens. It's just bad things happening for 2 episodes, and then it's over. But as an adult watching it back and just thinking about how cool the aesthetics are and how much it looks like Hellboy, it's like a strong 6 to a light 7. I can never figure out how to pitch to people to watch short animations. Most of them kind of fritter by and people just forget about them instantly. Any of my favorites, I'm likely to watch them again and again, but even still, I can hardly even tell the story without spoiling them to begin with. I've never known a trans person or a lesbian who didn't love Kanameo, but I'm not sure if I could find the people that I know would love Eri Me. These are just the kind of things I tend to put on for people when we're getting really high and looking at artsy shit. Pornography can be hard to recommend. Alignment UU, literally pornography and not even that good, but the characters and premise have really stuck in my mind. They're super unique, and I've never seen another porn anime with the same energy. I don't know why, it's still in my brain. That's also the kind of thing I would put on for people when we're getting really high, if we're moving on to looking at horny shit for some reason. Gallo Sengen. I don't know, maybe you've seen this, maybe you know this one, maybe it's not that hard to parse, maybe it's just an old meme, I don't know. Here it is, though. Once upon a time, Studio Gainax made the single most racist animation I've ever seen. The Chocolate Panic Picture Show. And since that studio has been canceled out of existence at this point, I think we're at a safe distance to laugh about it. This thing isn't good or really even that entertaining, but it's weird as shit and definitely fascinating to laugh at in astonishment. Also one of the druggiest animations to ever come out of Japan. I kind of have similar feelings about that to this short called Utsu Musume Sayuri. I know about this because somebody sent it to me to rant about it because they thought it was the worst thing they had ever seen. And I didn't understand what the fuck it was at all, but apparently I laughed my ass off when I watched it. Here's another short called Waiter. This one probably relates to all kinds of people with anxiety. I don't know if it would be cathartic or activating to that anxiety. Wasure-boshi is a short I can't remember the subject of, but only that it looked incredible. Honestly, there isn't that much anime that I would recommend to most people, but there isn't really that much stuff that I'd recommend to nobody, unless it just simply wasn't good. Most of what gets made in the high cost and high effort world of animation is made with an audience in mind, even if sometimes that audience is incredibly specific. There's plenty of stuff that I like that is so weird and esoteric I could only really imagine recommending it to other anime fans or people who like that specific genre. But I also know that those people do exist, even if there might not be any people like that in my personal life at the moment. The stuff I just talked about, though, it doesn't really have an audience I can picture in my mind's eye, except for whoever would look at it and just think, fuck, I gotta see that. Me and who? Let me know in the comments, and tell me about your favorite anime that you don't know anyone to recommend it to. there's a decent chance I'll end up checking it out. Thanks again for watching, and remember, anime forever.